Welcome to our daily reflection for this Friday, April 26th. And today we have our first reading, which is from Acts of the Apostles, as we've been going through it. And it's Paul proclaiming the good news, the gospel, to a Gentile and Jewish audience in Antioch of Pisidia, which is in the middle of present-day Turkey, basically. And as Paul's preaching, he gets to the heart of the gospel. The good news is that Jesus, although he was condemned to death, was raised from the dead. And Paul says, this is the good news. He was raised from the dead, and he is the Messiah. And then he uses as evidence textually in the scriptures of Israel that Jesus is the Messiah from Psalm 2, which is a messianic psalm. In other words, a psalm that the Jews believed was about the Messiah. And it talks about how God will take this anointed one and he will say, "You are my son, today I have begotten you." And how all the nations may conspire against God's anointed, but God will laugh them in derision, and God will be victorious, and God's anointed one will be victorious. And of course, Paul's saying, look, the nations conspired. The Jewish leadership, the Gentile leadership, and Pilate conspired against Jesus, and yet Jesus won. He's been raised from the dead, and God has raised up his anointed one, who is God's own son. And so Paul is testifying to that. And then the psalm today is fittingly Psalm 2, which is the very psalm that Paul quotes. And so there's a nice connection with that. And then when we get to the gospel reading, again, this gospel reading echoes forth the theme of Eastertide, that is the theme of the resurrection. And so Jesus' last night with his disciples, he talks about what he is going to do, that he's going where they cannot follow, but he says, don't let your hearts be troubled. Have faith in God, have faith also in me, right? And then he goes on and says, in my Father's house, there's many rooms, and I go to prepare a place for you. And so Jesus is speaking about how he is going to go to the Father and he's going to prepare a home for us where he will regather and be with us again, and he will draw us to himself. And so as the church awaits for the second coming of Jesus, we are consoled by the fact that Jesus has gone to the Father's house where he is preparing a place for us. We are not orphaned. God is preparing a place for us. And so that should give us great, great hope. And one of the things I like to think about is if God created this world, and as Genesis says, in 6 days, and it's beautiful beyond and breathtaking. Well, if Jesus has been working on a place for us for 2,000 years, think about how beautiful that will be, right? It'll be beyond this world in glory and splendor and beauty. And that's what God has in store for us. And so let us be encouraged, and let's not let our hearts be troubled, but let's put faith in God and in Jesus Christ. Because in the end, the nations will rage, but God will win. And that's great consolation indeed. May the Lord bless and keep you.
This daily reflection is brought to you thanks to the generous support of the Mission Circle. Join the Mission Circle to help Catholics worldwide understand, live, and share their faith. Sign up at missioncircle.org today.